Hey, good morning. Welcome to the podcast. So glad you're here. There's so much going on in the Be Courageous ministry. I don't know if you know about everything, but just for a moment, we'll get into the episode. BeCourageousMinistry.org. You can find everything, including the newest podcast. I don't know if your wife might be interested, but there's a Heart of the Home podcast with just Angie. There's this podcast, obviously, the Resolute Man podcast for the guys. Some ladies are listening in too from time to time because some of the episodes cross over. And then there's the Courageous Parenting Podcast. Almost 6 years we've been going, over 312 episodes, hitting 194 countries. That is for both the gents and the ladies. And it's really, really helpful for parenting during uncertain times. So subscribe to the shows that are interesting to you. We really appreciate it. If you give 5-star reviews on any of those too, that's amazing. And all Resolute Man resources are at resoluteman.com. I encourage you to go there. I encourage you to get the free download and the 8 principles of being a man during uncertain times, and I think you'll really appreciate those. Today's episode, Be Watchful and Stand Firm. It's after one of my favorite verses, 1 Corinthians 16:13. Be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men, be strong. Such an incredible verse. We're going to talk about that and some practical things I think will be super helpful to you. Thank you for being part of the Resolute Man movement, by the way. If you love the show, please share it and get the word out there. Okay, how are you doing? No, really, how are you doing? You know, if someone were to ask you that and you had a deep relationship with them and they asked you that and you didn't just give the normal, oh yeah, I'm fine. How are you? But instead you actually shared how you were doing at the core in all areas. What would you actually say? And I think it's important to recognize any of those areas where maybe you're not doing okay. Maybe there's some challenges. Maybe you're thinking about financial things. Maybe you're thinking about, maybe there's some sin in your life. Maybe there's marriage challenges. Maybe there's concerns about one of your children right now. Maybe there's somebody you care about that's ill. There could be all kinds of things. Of course, we're running up into the election here. It's bound to be a tumultuous time, no matter what, right? No matter what, the next, 4 to 5 months are going to be different. They're going to be interesting. There's going to be some challenges in the world, especially in the United States, and with the election. So just buckle your seatbelt. But, one thing that we can have confidence in is the Lord. And that is what we want to make sure our confidence absolutely is in. And we want to be leaning strong into the Lord because our families need that of us. Because the stronger we are growing in the Lord, the more that's going to encourage our family naturally to do the same. Because you're the leader. It's going to rub off, right? If your Bible is open in your home, what does that do? The ripple effect of that is more people in your home are going to have the Bible open. You have so much influence. Don't lose sight of the power of your influence, most importantly, by example, by how you communicate with your wife, how you communicate with your children, by opening the Bible, by spiritual things, by how you spend your time, how disciplined you are or not, and these kinds of things, right? So we want to think about those things. There is no perfection. None of us are perfect. I'm not perfect. Every day, I'm trying to do the best I can, and sometimes I also don't do the best I can, right? Doesn't that happen to all of us? But then we get back up and we try and do the best the next day. And I think that's the way things go. So let's look at this real quick. I broke it down. Be watchful. Let's talk about that. That first part of that verse. Be watchful. This is such an important era that we're living in to be watchful in. There's so many deceiving things happening that are specifically trying to target families, target children, destroy marriages, right? And so it's really important to be watchful. The first thing I would be watchful over is your marriage. Make sure your eyes don't wander. Make sure that you're focused on your wife. Make sure you're not spending alone time with a female ever, right? That's one thing that is important to me and I've held to is I don't spend one-on-one time with opposite sex ever, right? Not because I don't trust myself, it's because I don't trust how that looks even, right? I don't want even a rumor to happen or something like that. So you have to be watchful during these times. And that the other thing about your marriage is be watchful of your wife. Pay attention to her needs. And That's the other thing, is heart needs of your children too. What's going on in their hearts? Where is their behavior coming from? And how do you reach their heart? If you haven't done this yet, I highly encourage you to take the Parenting Mentor Program with your bride, because that is a major focus of that, including discipleship that must be woven into the fabric of your parenting, plus marriage. It is such a crucial program that over 3,000 parents have gone through. And gents, as much as the ladies, have told me how much they've gained from it. So I encourage you to initiate in that way. Okay, so the needs of hearts: be watchful of your marriage, be watchful of the times. We're living in crazy times, as I was just mentioning. The next few months are going to be interesting, but we have to be watchful. We have to pay attention to the trends. We have to pay attention to, how things are shifting, so we can make decisions today that the future requires, even though it's not required today. It's one of the hardest things to do, because usually people will make decisions once it's evident and very clear that a decision needs to be made, right? That's a reactive decision. But if you're going to thrive and lead your family well in these times, it's important to make decisions way before they're required, way before it's obvious to most people that a decision needs to be made. And so I think of, like, for us, it was moving to Idaho. That was a proactive decision that I felt was very, very important for the long term, for a variety of reasons. And we did an episode on the Courageous Parenting Podcast, Strategic Relocation, on that, if you want to check it out. But it's what decisions need to be made today that aren't required. It's not necessary. Definitely would break your comfort zone and cause some positive disruption, right? Good disruption, but for good in your family, potentially. But what decisions need to be made that the future will likely require in order to thrive? So be thinking about that. Be watchful of the times. Be watchful of influences on your family. Be watchful of that. What influences are you bringing into the family? Maybe you have a buddy, but maybe that his family isn't the greatest influence for your children, for example. So you have to be very careful about these things, because you are the leader of your family. So be watchful of sin in your life that continues, the same kind of sin, deliberate sin. Oof, come on. Read the Bible about that, right? You need to be watchful and put yourself in situations that are going to be good for you. Okay, the next part of the scripture, so that's the first part: be watchful, stand firm in the faith. Wow, so important to stand firm in the faith. Hey, have you experienced persecution for your faith? Have you experienced ridicule, lost money, canceled on social media, or any of the above, because you stand firm for what's true, what's righteous, what's right, what's good, what's biblical? And if you haven't experienced that, it's okay. I mean, wonderful that you haven't experienced persecution, right? But on the same token, you might ask yourself, if you haven't experienced persecution, how well are you standing firm in the faith? It's just a good question to contemplate and think about, because that is when we stand out, when we are different, when we're a light on the hill, when we're in the salt and light, then that is when persecution is going to come. And it's not that we're looking for it, but it's just like a good question to ask. If you're not ever being persecuted, are you really standing firm in the faith when people around you are laughing and mocking things? If there's hooliganry around you with the guys, are you standing firm in the faith? And I think that's important, to stand for what you believe in, to live it out, and to be loving to others, but to be sharing. Are you sharing the gospel? It's a good question. Are you discipling up your children? Or is there someone in your life that you're mentoring that needs help?
Hey, gents, maybe this fits you, maybe it doesn't. But one thing is true: misapplied ambition is costly, and a thriving family is priceless. Let me ask you, are you successful, yet feeling a growing defeat inside? Perhaps a deep yearning for more, for what really matters? At what point in the journey did we decide to make silent agreements to put aside what matters most? Perhaps it's the old myth of, once I accomplish this, then I'll focus on my callings, then I'll focus on my family and my faith. Well, too many men have traded real excellence for the deceiving picture culture pressures them to pursue. It's actually possible to have it all, but it must be redefined if you want real excellence. See, You have to be willing to stand against the wind of mediocrity pressing against you that most call normal, a mediocrity usually embraced by Christian circles around you too. See, almost all successful Christian men have found themselves suffocating from their own reality, even when many around them are calling them blessed. There is no success at the sacrifice of your faith, family, and callings in your life. So if you're interested in finding out how we can work together, if you want help, if you're serious about growth, go to resoluteman.com and schedule a call.
These are good questions for men to ask themselves. We don't want to hide. We want to be different. We're not to be of the world, but we are in the world, right? So it's important that we look different in the world and that we're in it differently. Okay? So be proactive with your faith too, right? Are you willing to risk even a relationship to share something that you feel the Holy Spirit prompting you to share with somebody? So stand firm in the faith. Super, super important. It's part of being a man, a godly man in this world, right? And so be watchful, stand firm in the faith. Next part, act like men. Now, I did a whole episode. It's episode number 1, right? What is a man? I highly encourage, short, powerful episode. I highly encourage you to listen to that Resolute Man episode, number 1. And if you wouldn't mind sharing that episode, it's a great introduction to the show. It really gets it out there. And even if they don't listen to the show anymore, that one episode will make an impact on most men. I think it is super, super helpful. Okay, but act like men. Let's just a couple points here. Is men take initiative. They take initiative for the benefit of others they love and care about. They take initiative for the weak. They take in a good way to help them. They take initiative in their work to get ahead of the curve so they're not overworking and use their time well, right? How well are you using your time? See, you have to take good initiative on the hard things first to be able to use your time well, to be able to have time for all the things that are important, right? And be there for your family. So take initiative. Might you need to take more initiative? Maybe it's taking more initiative in your faith, in spiritual leading in your home, right? If you need help with that, you can always schedule a call with me if you'd like. But take initiative. Be decisive. I think acting like men are decisive. Not making decisions too fast, but when they make a decision, they've made it, right? They're listening and so forth. They're considering things. They're considering wisdom. But once they make a decision, they move with it. They're not wishy-washy. They're decisive people. And decisive people are people that others want to follow. It's part of being a leader is to be decisive. And they seek wisdom. They seek lots of wisdom. They have at least a couple brothers around them that they implicitly trust, that they can ask wisdom, and they know that wisdom is godly wisdom because those brothers are reading their Bible on a regular basis. Who can you seek wisdom from? You've got to seek wisdom. You've got to be in a council of wisdom so that you're making better decisions as you're moving forward. Every decision you make creates a positive and negative ripple effect. Are you thinking about all the effects of your decision, positive and negative, into the future? Sometimes short-sighted decisions keep us comfortable, keep us safe, but the ripple effects aren't as good as some other decision could be made. So make sure you're making really good decisions, and that's part of acting like men, but you have to seek wisdom to do that. Okay, be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men. And finally, the verse says, be strong. Be strong, right? So good. And I think that we should be strong physically, right? We should take care of the holy temple so that we can be good protectors, so that we can keep playing with our kids and our grandkids down the road. We need to be physically strong. That's why, I do things like I play spike ball with my kids. I try to keep up with them. They're better than me, but I can play. And they're really good. They're on the verge of semi-pro with spike ball. And I can keep up with them. I can play. Volleyball. I play volleyball with them, right? I throw the football with them. I'm trying to keep physically fit and these kinds of things. Super important. Mental acuity is vital. And so are you doing anything that's hurting your mental acuity? Are you not getting enough sleep? Are you not physically well? Are you saturating your mind with worry and fear and these kinds of things because you're not in the Word enough? What is your mental condition? we've got to be alert. We've got to be ready. We've got to be thinking. We've got to be good thinkers. There is an episode, by the way, just came to my mind. It's like in episode 3 or 4 of the show, and it's called The Art of Clear Thinking. And I explain a process to get to your very, very best thinking, especially if you have to make important decisions or you're thinking about reorientating or trying something new and these kinds of things. It's so important, or solving a problem that your business has or your work has or that's in your family, that you just have to figure out. That's really difficult, a difficult problem, right? I teach you an exercise to do that is so important. So mentally be strong. Mentally be strong too, willing to face the persecution when you make the right decision that's a hard decision to make. Willing to face the opinions of others that look poorly on you for your decision, even if it's a very best, right, godly decision. See, that is being mentally strong, having fortitude, a strong constitution, a conviction inside of you that, nope, my family is not participating in that. And it doesn't matter how that looks on me to make that decision, because it's about the safety and protection of my family. It's about not letting them be influenced in wayward ideologies and so forth. Nope, we're going to do this. Nope, we're going to do that. Despite maybe all my friends are over there doing that. Nope, I'm going to go do this. And maybe it hurts some of those friendships. If they're real friendships, it won't. It won't hurt them, right? You'll still be friends, okay? So be strong. Be strong financially, right? It's given. We're providers. It's important to be strong financially. I don't know about you, but that is tricky these days. It's hard. I'm constantly navigating that, running a ministry, right? It's not easy, and I'm so thankful for those that help us to be financially stronger. So appreciate that very, very much. My next point is, it says, well, the point is be strong because, and then the point I want to add is because he is strong. Okay? So we are never going to be strong enough without his strength. And if we operate in our own strength and we're not operating in his strength too, and most importantly, then we're limited to what can be done through us, right? So are you operating only in your own strength? Do you only make decisions to do things when you feel you're strong enough to do them because of your skill, ability, and talents, and you feel like you're strong? Or are you willing to go beyond that and do things outside of your own strength because you're trusting in God's strength? When was the last time you did that? When was the last time you were strong because of complete reliance on the Lord to do something that without the Lord you wouldn't be strong in? See, that's a good test. Are you strong? Maybe there's some areas that you need to be stronger. So be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men, be strong. This is important, gents. We need these things in our leadership, in our walk, and we need to walk them out. And so if there's any areas that I've mentioned and talked about or sprung up an area in your mind, I would encourage you to write it down. I'd encourage you to pray about it. I'd encourage you to have a marriage conversation about it and be vulnerable with your wife. Wow, vulnerable with your wife on these things, and she's so gonna appreciate it. That's deep, real marriage communication. So, gents, I encourage you to memorize this scripture because it's so helpful to be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men, and be strong. Thanks for joining the show.